welcome back to our channel for episode 3 of Jonesin for the Dub. Thanks for staying tuned to our rookie season. We're so excited to get into all things media for this episode. We're going to take it to our segment called Take It to the Clipboard. We give you definitions, breakdowns, history. We're going to give you nothing but straight facts as we especially dive into the Caitlin Clark effect, how it's affecting players, as well as players who are being marketed for the W and how that's affecting the overall viewership and impact of the W. Some history lessons on where have we seen this before, Magic and Larry Koff. We're also, of course, going to give you the weekly W with recaps and things that have happened in the league this past week that we want to make sure that you know about. There's going to be a lot to go into, so let's get into it. Let's start with Take It to the Clipboard. Before we dive into things like media biases, what the media is looking like, how the media is framing Caitlin Clark and other players, I do want to start with a disclaimer. This is going to be a pretty heavy topic, especially as we dive into how racism is kind of playing into this part. However, I do want to be clear. Jonesing for the Dub does not tolerate any form of hate and form of bigotry, racism, discriminatory comments. We don't play that. It's okay if you don't agree with some of my opinions, some of my facts that I state. That's fine. Comment below. We're happy to have any type of opinions. However, we don't do hate. Any hate comments will be deleted. You will be blocked and you'll no longer be able to tune into Jonesin for the Dub. Before we talk about how the media and how people are marketing Caitlin Clark, we have to talk about the Caitlin Clark effect. What is it? What does it mean? It's definitely something that's been thrown around, and rightfully so, as she does deserve the attention. But the Caitlin Clark effect is definitely the phenomenon that people are talking about of how many eyes she has brought to women's basketball solely on her own. She's been carrying a heavy load, as Dawn Staley referenced in the 2024 NCAA National Championship this past year, and rightfully so. Caitlin Clark brought to the game logo threes for women's basketball. She also is the all-time scorer of college basketball, period, both men and women's. She deserves all that media attention. However, I think it's important as we talk about the Caitlin Clark effect, it's important to understand she did not carry that load by herself. She definitely carried the heaviest part of the load, as many fans had their eyes on her. People were looking for her to especially win a national championship before she left, and it's sad that she didn't get to. However, she did accomplish so many things and bring eyes to a school like Iowa, where amongst a bunch of schools that had dynasties like UConn, like South Carolina is building, like Stanford's had in the past, Tennessee. And so to be able to bring eyes to a school like Iowa, not only just her university, but her home state, that's no small feat. And again, she deserves all of that attention. However, I think it's important to realize she did not do that by herself, and that there were other women who also are bringing their fans to the game, and we need to appreciate them as well. I'm sure you're wondering, if Caitlin Clark is in all these amazing things, as well as these other women, why do so many people hate her? I have to tell you, nobody hates Caitlin Clark, not real basketball fans at least. People who have been tuning into women's basketball for years do not hate Caitlin Clark. We never will. I love Caitlin Clark as a player. I think she's a phenomenon to watch. She's a shooter. She will shoot over anybody, in your face, behind your back, whatever, and she deserves that praise. There's a difference between Caitlin Clark and the way national media outlets portray her in the media by putting down other women in order to lift her up. That is the issue we're talking about. Again, to hear me clearly, this is not about hating Caitlin Clark. This is about hating the way the media builds her up by putting other people down. You with me? Let's keep moving on. It's important in a Black woman-led sport. Black women are the majority in women's basketball. So we as media outlets need to be careful of what we're doing when it comes to trying to create a rivalry, of pitting them against someone else, because it's something that we've been seeing in the past few years that none of us like. And it's hard to then root for Caitlin because people are frustrated by what the media is putting out about their favorite players. And so it's also a detriment to Caitlin and the great things that she's bringing to the game, because people are putting eyes on her as if she's the issue when she's not even in control of how the media is portraying her. And if you're looking for examples of times where the media has uplifted Caitlin by putting down Black women, of course, I got my handy dandy notes. One thing on me, I'm behind my notes. And I will give you examples, straight facts. Like I said, straight facts. One of the biggest pivotal moments, if not the pivotal moment, was definitely the 2023 NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship. LSU defeated Iowa. I think it was 102-85. I don't know how I remember that score off the top of my head, but a women's basketball fan. In that game, one of the biggest pivotal moments was when Angel Reese was taunting, or at least that's what the media put it like, when she was trash talking Caitlin Clark by doing the "you can't see me" face. Everyone knows it from John Cena. Caitlin does it at every single game. She does it to her family when she's hyped, when she wants to show that she's dominating the game. Rightfully so. Talk her stuff, she can back it up. But Angel was giving that back to Caitlin, as Caitlin is one of the best trash talkers in the game. Real fans who have been watching Caitlin have known her to be a trash talker, and we love that about her. Again, she can back it up, so why not? Women trash talk just as much as men, contrary to popular belief. And so, of course, Angel, who has been battling with Caitlin since, as she said, since AAU, since high school, of course she's going to, "you can't see me, I'm beating your team, I'm going to get a ring." She was doing the ring sign. But we do have an example from ESPN from that, where they said Angel Reese gives Caitlin Clark the "you can't see me" face. And the comments under that post were so discriminatory, hateful, as well as you can see some people defending Angel, because, again, fans who have been watching this game understand Caitlin is a trash talker herself. If the shoes were flipped and Iowa was defeating LSU, she would have been talking her talk and no one would have had an issue with it. But the media took that story and continued to show Angel as some villain who's bullying her, who's taunting her, who's chasing her around the court. And that is not something that we need to put into this game. That's making Angel seem like she's this bully who just goes after people, rather than she's playing a competitive game and she's being competitive against someone who she has said in multiple times is her friend. Even Caitlin Clark said in the post-game conference of the national championship, it didn't bother her. People shouldn't be coming at Angel for trash talking when it's a part of the game, yet no one listened to that. Angel to this day still gets the most disgusting hate comments for trash talking, for showing up authentically herself as a competitor, even if it's win or lose. That's the game with basketball. We should be okay with people trash talking regardless. They weren't bullying each other. They hugged it out as friends at the end of it. So why wasn't that okay with the media? The world would like to know. So another example of this is definitely this past year. South Carolina went 38-0 with a brand new starting five to win the national championship. They defeated Iowa, Caitlin Clark led. It was a great game, a really competitive game. However, it's interesting that this team that is, again, Black woman led, also with a Black woman coach, did not even get close to the same amount of national coverage as Caitlin Clark, whose team lost the national championship. It's interesting that the national news is focusing on the losers, not calling Caitlin Clark a loser, but in this instance, that's a little definition her team lost. So they were the loser in the national championship, but they're getting more coverage than the winners in the Black woman-led team. It's hard to not create an opinion and understand, like, what does this mean? Does the sport not care about Black women who are running it? I think it's just important to note that. Also, other media outlets were continuing to villainize South Carolina and LSU in the news between last year and this year. For example, LSU being called dirty debutantes when they're going against UCLA in the Sweet 16 this year. What's that about? I love that Haley Van Lith spoke up for her team and said that they're not being treated well in the media, and that's obviously a racist comment. You continue to see it on Twitter. You continue to see it on especially any social media platform. I think it's important as we build up Caitlin Clark that we build camaraderie around women's basketball in general, not just the WNBA. We should be building camaraderie because these women are doing that. Again, they're friends. They say it in every news conference. They say it every time the media comes to them. And yet we villainize them in the name of views, in the name of marketability. We can market these women while still making them to seem like healthy rivals. Even if they fight on the court, they're still friends. It's so cool to see that the NCAA used their rivalry to really drive views. The Elite Eight game between LSU and Iowa this past year was the most watched college game ever until the national championship game, but 12.3 million viewers in an Elite Eight game was unheard of for women's basketball. So I think it's important to note these examples. There's way more examples. If you have more, of course, leave comments. I'm sure we've seen them, we can reference them, but there's not the time to reference every single one. So that's our take on the Caitlin Park effect, how the media has been using that to create some biases, but also why it's important to not do that as media outlets and to make sure to establish some camaraderie around these women as they're already doing personally. So we have the job to do that as well. So let's move on to some historical references, or also if you thought this was familiar, it definitely is, and how the history of rivalries was used in the NBA. And it seems like the WNBA is going to use that same thing as the NCAA definitely used it when it came to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. So for those who don't know, for the NBA, this is one of the only times that we'll reference the NBA, just so you know, because it's about the dub. But the 80s is known as the golden era of the NBA because it really kickstarted the viewership that they have now, where they have millions of viewers, the men are making millions of dollars, things like that. And one of the, if not the biggest reason, was the rivalry between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I can give you a little bit of details about them if you don't know. Magic Johnson played for the Los Angeles Lakers. Larry Bird played for the Boston Celtics. LA and the Celtics are the biggest rivalry in the NBA. They're one of the oldest, if not the oldest, between Magic and Larry. Sometimes there were some racist things brought up, especially in Boston. You know how Boston is. No shade to Boston if you're from there, but you know your history. I think it's important to understand that the media sometimes would shade Magic in certain ways, especially racially, to uplift Larry. And I think we cannot do that with the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese rivalry. So Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came to the league, and they had already been battling out in college, just like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark were battling it out in college. It's extraordinary to see also a Black man doing the sport really well and a white man playing on his level going at it, just like a Black woman playing at this level and a white woman playing at this level and going at it, battling it out, having basically their 1-on-1 record against each other, the same way that Magic and Larry, where they had a very similar record going against each other. They played on the big stage against each other, duking it out. There wasn't a time where Magic could be interviewed and not have Larry mentioned, as well as Larry being interviewed and not having Magic mentioned. Again, I'm just referencing Magic and Larry to let you know that this isn't brand new. They're definitely using this as a reference to market the WNBA. And again, I think it's a beautiful thing as long as we in the media keep it healthy. But I do think it's important as we talk about what we can do with audience members to understand all these media outlets out. In the previous episode, or episode 2, if you haven't watched, go ahead and watch it. I did reference how social media drives change in this game. I think it's important to know when we call these media outlets out about their biases and how they're presenting the news of this game, they have no choice but to change. LA Times, after they called LSU dirty debutantes, they got called out somewhat on social media as well as by the players themselves. They had to issue an apology. We want more of that. People should know that they're making mistakes when it comes to marketing these women incorrectly because we need to be fair. I also think it's important that the players continue to call these things out. I think it was great in Caitlin Clark's SNL debut this year that she talked about Black women especially who laid down the foundation to where she is today in the WNBA, like Cynthia Cooper, Maya Moore. I mean, Becky Hammon's not Black, but she named so many. She named Candace Parker, of course. And I think it's important for her to do that, to let the media know you need to make sure to see these Black women. I think it's also cool, like Paige Beckers, someone who called this out in 2021 in her ESPYs acceptance speech. She took the time to use that entire speech to build up Black women, knowing that they don't get the coverage that someone like she gets by being a white woman. Kelsey Plum also did that last season when the Aces were having a phenomenal historic season, and so many media outlets were hating on them for being Black women aggressively playing the game aggressively, but they were just playing the game of basketball. What does it mean to be aggressively playing it? Well, we saw that all the time. And Kelsey Plum called that out. She was like, I don't get that type of coverage like my teammates do. I don't get that type of hate like my teammates do. So I think collectively, us as audience members, us as media participants, as well as the players calling out these media outlets will continue to drive change to, again, collectively drive that camaraderie amongst all of us to build up the WNBA game. That might be all we have today for the historical background, all things media. It's a lot to unpack, so let me know if you want a part 2, because I could definitely go into it. I could talk about this for days. I think knowing the Caitlin Parker effect, also how we can come together is the most important part of this whole thing. And again, she deserves the attention. We love that for her. She is a great player who deserves it. She's marketable. She's bringing eyes to the game. She's carrying a heavy load, of course. This is about the media outlets portraying her in a certain way that she's not even saying. And we as media people, we as media outlets need to be part of the change. That's all we have for you today. And we're going to move on to the Weekly W. All right, y'all. So like I said, now it's time to move into the Weekly W, our weekly recaps of things that might have happened in the WNBA that you might have missed, or maybe you didn't miss and you're just seeing it here. But either way, we got you. So our first piece of news is really exciting. This past weekend, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony happened. So here are the amazing women that were just inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Simone Augustus, Maya Moore, also known as Maya Moore Irons now, Taj McWilliams Franklin, Rita Easterling, Violet Palmer, Sue Phillips, and Rooney Scapple. First of all, we have to give big congratulations to all these amazing women. Especially, I have to give the shout out to Maya Moore. She's the reason that I fell in love with basketball. She also has the same name as me, so I just feel like it just makes it a little razzled dazzle, a little pizzazz. I am so excited to see these women, her and Simone especially, because those are players that I grew up watching. I'm sorry I'm a little younger, but it's just exciting to see everything that they've done, everything they accomplished. It's really cool to see these women get immortalized by being Hall of Fame inductees, as every single one of them deserves. So congratulations, ladies. If you don't know who these women are, definitely look up their accomplishments because they are the GOATs of the game, some of the GOATs. Another piece of news that we saw was that Sue Bird bought into ownership with her former team, the Seattle Storm, which is so exciting. Sue Bird, again, one of the GOATs of the game. She went to UConn, was drafted by the Seattle Storm, won multiple championships with the Storm as their point guard, one of the best in the game to ever do it. And she's stylish as hell as she does it. If you don't know, follow her on Instagram because you shall see it. It's so cool to see these women who were truly trailblazers in the game buy into the WNBA and be able to give back. So for Sue to buy it into ownership for her previous team is major. So congratulations, Sue. We love you, absolutely adore you, and I cannot wait to see the things you do with the Storm now that you're no longer a player and now an owner. Oh no, that's right. So another thing going on for at least next year's draft, just giving you a little taste, is definitely some major transfer portal news happening in the women's college basketball game. The biggest piece of news is definitely Kiki Ariafen is transferring from Stanford to USC, the University of Southern California, not South Carolina, just to be clear. So we're going to get Kiki with Juju Watkins next year. Kiki is someone that a lot of people are split between her and Paige Beckers being the #1 overall pick in next year's WNBA draft. So she's definitely someone you should keep your eyes on. Definitely watch all the USC games if you can, because it's going to be magic having her in the backcourt with Juju in the front court. Really cool news, as well as Haley Van Lith transferred from LSU to TCU. As you know, Haley, she started at Louisville as her career, another dog on the court, and she transferred to LSU this past year playing as their point guard. And now as a grad transfer, she's going to TCU to finish her collegiate career. We're definitely expecting to see Haley in the draft as well next year. So definitely make sure to tune in to TCU next year and to see her playing on another team. She's still rocking that purple though. Good for you, Haley. So our last piece of news that we definitely have to highlight, well, second to last, definitely is the GOAT, one of the GOATs, Candace Parker is retiring. A lot of us expected her to retire after this season, and we totally understand her wanting to retire at the beginning, take a break. Candace has been one of the trailblazers of women's basketball. If there was a record that needed to be broken, Candace Parker was probably the one holding it. And I cannot put into many words how amazing it has been to watch the person that is Candace Parker play basketball at every single level. It's going to be something that we tell our kids and our grandkids that we got to see. And if you don't know some of the accomplishments she's had, I'll name off just a few. She spent 16 years in the WNBA, first of all. She also won 3 championships on the LA Sparks, the Chicago Sky, as well as the Las Vegas Aces. She also was the first overall pick in the 2008 draft, and she is to this day the only person to win Rookie of the Year and League MVP in the same year. Coming in so young and then being the League MVP is unheard of, but Candace Parker did it. We don't understand the impact she's made to that game. Also been a Finals MVP. She's won 2 Olympic gold medals. The list goes on and on and on, but we cannot thank you enough, Candace, for everything you have been, will be, and will continue to be, especially in our hearts and minds to this game. So congratulations on your retirement. We will miss you, but we're so excited that at least you still get to be an analyst for us, both in the NBA and the WNBA. So we're excited to see you on our screens continuing to this day. But big shout out to Candace Parker. Definitely make sure to send her love if you already have it. Put our comments if you want, just about Candace Parker. But again, we love you. Congratulations. And our last piece of news for the Weekly W is definitely about training camps. If you did not see on Saturday, or actually this past Sunday, training camp started for the WNBA, which means this is the time where all the draftees, as well as people who were invited to come to training camp, are basically trying out for the WNBA team. This is their trial run. This is their tryout period. So they're going through drills, they're going through plays, they're seeing how the team gels, and the owners and the coaches are deciding who's going to make those 12 spots. So definitely make sure to follow every single team if you can. If not, you can follow the WNBA account as well, because they'll take the updates from the team and post them on their social media. But if you want any updates on who's on the training camp roster, who's making practices, who's actually been cut, because sometimes they don't wait until their last cutoff date to cut people from their rosters. Some people are cut in the middle of training camp, so make sure to understand that. But all of those updates, every single WNBA team provides that on their social media. So make sure to tune in, follow your faves, follow their team, because it's about to get crazy and it's about to get closer to the actual season. That's really all we have for you today. And we're so glad that you got to tune into our media topics, as well as the Weekly W and things that are going on with the WNBA this past week. Let us know if you think there's anything you missed, anything you want to see, anything you want more to talk about. Again, no hate comments, you will be blocked and reported. And while you do that, while you check out our videos, while you leave a comment, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Push the little notification bell if you want to know when we'll drop our videos. We'll be coming to you every week with Jonesin for the dub. But that's all we got for you today. Bye, y'all.